Good morning, afternoon, or evening. I am Stephanie Joy with All Things Social Security and the attorney at Joy Disability. You're about to see what should be a question and answer format type of chat from our live session on a particular topic that we find that a lot of people keep asking about. So I'm sharing it here. If there are pieces that could have been added that weren't added during the live, because there's a kind of a fast-paced Q&A that we do every Wednesday at 1 p.m. You might just find that I added something to the end of it to give it a little more clarity and a little more details for those that are interested in that particular topic. So check to see if that's at the end. Otherwise, enjoy the video. Bye-bye. I was doing Walmart grocery deliveries when this all went down. It's 1099 work when you can. Would it hurt me if I filter out large, heavy orders? How can you even do that? That's it. I mean, don't you have to drive? I mean, if I don't know how that works. Like, do you have to be available when they want you to? And then what happens? I mean, if your condition is sporadic, you have to hop in a car. You have to be up, walking on your feet, lifting things, even if they're not heavy. Remember, at 39, you're going to be considered able to do sedentary work if you can lift a few to 10 pounds, quite regularly. And if, gosh forbid, it's 15 pounds, now you're putting yourself in the light range. Even a 50-year-old can't win with that. Except small orders, I think I can handle. I don't know. Think about all the things you say you can't do. And with that job, I'm afraid to try it and fail, but I'm technically still a delivery driver. I get it. Don't be afraid to fail. Oh my gosh, everybody, do not be afraid to fail. If I stopped trying because I failed, I wouldn't be here today. I probably wouldn't be married, and I probably wouldn't have kids. It's like a numbers game. The more you try, the more you're going to succeed. You're going to fail a ton of times. And then we learn from our failures and so I wouldn't worry about failing. It just means that job was too hard for you. And then you can find a different one. Personally, I love the house sitting jobs. That's what I'd be doing. You can watch TV. You can watch YouTube videos. Come on. Yep. That's kind of typical, Puffles. He says that the CE letter didn't say anything about all the tests are going to run. Yeah, they're not going to itemize it for you, but just the date, time to be there, and to bring his medications, and that's very typical. Gamillion, how are you, Superman? How about doing clinical trials and studies? I made $700 just checking my blood pressure for 60 days. I'm pending SSI. I'm curious, how do they pay you for that? I assume you're going to get a 1099. Is it going to say that how's it going to be defined? Because technically, you're not really working. Sometimes we're selling our blood, but assuming they do it, if you're paying Social Security taxes on it, yeah. If you want to consider it work, I think you could do that. Now, pending SSI, you better keep track of your income because that's going to negate from your SSI. So you have to make sure that you're not doing it more than SGA at all. If it's considered work, which I would try to push that it is, if you just assume it is and tax it that way and can put it under wages or self-employment income, yeah, that's not a bad gig. So and you said SSI, that's the welfare program, not the SSD. So I'm just trying to think here with the amount. First $65 wouldn't be counted, and then $2 away from $1 away from SSI for every $2 you earn. So certainly 700 is just fine. God, if you could do that every month, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe 800, you'd be having all 4 credits. You will eventually be able to file for SSD and not SSI, Gamillion, because you're going to be earning credits. Just don't write off all your mileage. Just pay the taxes on the full amount, assuming it's, 10,000 or less, so you get the 4 credits, but not more than that. If it goes higher than that, then maybe you're comfortable writing off some legitimate expenses, but otherwise you write off too many. A lot of giggers don't realize, oh, but I made 10,000. I go, you wrote it all off. You didn't pay any taxes. You said it was all paying back the expenses of your business. So you didn't get any credits and no Social Security. Heather says, it shows us what items are in the order. This is for the Walmart delivery, where it is going ahead of time so we don't have to accept it. You can log in when you can and deny every offer they send if you don't like them. Yeah, that's possible. I mean, you'd have to do what you'd probably want is the super tiny orders, so you're not lugging 10 bags, walking all the way through. You're just picking up and delivering, right? You're not picking, right? Oh, are you picking? I don't think you are. You're just delivering. You probably have to take them out of the thing. So you're going to want it to be, super small. You know what I mean? I would say small order, because what if you're in the big order and you get a migraine? And because you say those migrants are sporadic and you don't know when they're coming and you're a victim of their unpredictability, this job is good in the sense that if you're having a bad day, you already know. If you get that sensation, you don't take any gigs. But is it something that would happen so quickly that you could be on the road delivering a Walmart and it overcomes you? If that's not the case, then that's probably okay. It could still be one of those every day is different, or I'll start feeling it come on, and I know I got to be home and in bed and be very gentle from this moment out, and within 2 hours be home. Maybe it's like that. I don't know. I mean, everyone obviously you're conditioned to be whatever it is, but it's good that it's like you pick. It's not like on the clock thing. Good morning. Let's talk a little bit about working while you have a case pending. In particular, this would most recently apply to someone who has an attorney or a non-attorney rep, but if you start to try to work while your case is pending, which is not an impossible thing to do, but it's got to be done with great care, You're going to want to definitely confer with your attorney, who will hopefully be very knowledgeable on how best to do that. I know some attorneys will just say don't do it because they don't perhaps feel confident in explaining the ins and the outs and the rules to keep your risk as low as possible. But whatever the case may be, if you start to work, you've got to tell your representative, okay? Because the SSA is going to find out about it. You're going to get all sorts of information from whether it's the financial sector or the IRS. These things do come out. So if you're a W-2, it's definitely going to come out. And if you're self-employed, that's very, very important to stay on top of, because you're going to want to have extra diligent record keeping about the amount of time you put in, what the net income from the self-employment is. And because it's self-employment and we keep our own documentation, you're going to have to be very much more astute about doing that, which you wouldn't necessarily have to do in a W-2 position, because that's far more objectively defined and you don't have control over what's reported. I noticed that some people start to do things like Uber or DoorDash, or some other kind of gigger work, and they don't even realize that that's called self-employment. They get a 1099 and they don't report it. And then lo and behold, it rears its ugly head. Sometimes the ALJ will have information that was never in the file until they ran a particular report right before hearing, and you didn't tell your lawyer about it. This could sink your ship. I mean, if it was self-employment and you never properly filed your business write-offs, the income that you're reporting might just sink your ship. There is a variety, not to mention the fact that you didn't report it. Sometimes an adjudicator is going to take that as a sign of deceit. And often I would say it's by and large not deceit, it's just ignorance. But usually when you sign up with a lawyer, one of their major facts or directions is you have to come to me and talk to me if you are going to start work or you do start work. So it is really important. The only way that the lawyer or the representative can protect you and guide you accordingly, so that if you did start to go off the rails by working inappropriately for your case, they can give you the heads up on that, because they're going to be able to recognize it, which you probably wouldn't be able to do. So remember, Uber, DoorDash, mowing someone's lawn. Some people do online work. They try to sell things online, like have a little Etsy store or something, or an affiliate. Certainly, oftentimes that is not going to be substantial work, because it's not going to be 25 hours a week but you have to have it well documented. Because even if you don't earn income, because let's say, you invest some, you make little or no revenue at that time, because it takes time, the activity hours, if the kind of work you did, even though you didn't get paid, is the kind of work that would normally be paid by an employer if it was in the labor force for a company, then it doesn't matter that you didn't get paid. It's the work activity that counts and what that value of work is. So you have to be super, super careful here. Okay. Don't just on the slide, go to work without talking to your representative. And if you don't have one, you're gonna have to look all this stuff up. Look up the earnings rules, look up SGA, TWP, and self-employment.
because again, it's a little more complicated than W-2 work. Because again, W-2 work, the employer does all the reporting. It's very objective. When you're self-employed, you have the power to, present the numbers as you deem appropriate. And of course, that can tend to lead some people to be able to misrepresent numbers, including hours worked. And sometimes when we're self-employed, if you're managing your own little business, that could come and bite you. So everything's got to be, to the extent you do it, you want to keep it within the rules of working while you have a pending claim and after the claim if you prevail. So it's something you have to pay close attention to. And don't not tell your representative, because if you get to hearing and that comes out and nobody knew because you didn't tell, it's probably going to sink your ship with the ALJ. Even if you weren't necessarily SGA, he might not necessarily believe that because you hid it for so long. So, and this could be particularly true if you didn't file a return at all, but then you were honest at hearing and said, well, yeah, I've been trying to work doing XYZ, it's just not gonna go well, most likely. So let's stay up front with your attorney. Know that working is the questions surrounding work and work activity, even if it's volunteer or unpaid or not for profit, are as critical as your medical evidence, because of the first two questions in the sequential evaluation process that the SSA and the fact finder, including the ALJ, if you go to hearing, are going to have to determine is, are you working SGA? And are your impairments severe enough to impact your ability to do work-related activities? So anything you do work-wise is going to be relevant to that. And mind you, as most of you know that have seen any of my videos on this, I'm a big proponent of disabled people working part-time to the extent they can and the extent that they choose to. I found so many benefits to their quality of life, their income level, and their mental health, even just getting out and about. So I think it's more often than not doable, but you have to do it right. And if you don't bring it up, no one can help you do it right. And you're most likely going to flub it, okay? And lose your case. And as you know, that might be the last time you have a case. Unless, of course, you continue to earn credits and properly pay taxes and stay insured into perpetuity through part-time work. But anyway, those are different videos about that. All right, I'll talk to you later. Don't forget to tell us about your work. Volunteer, W-2 or 1099 or no 1099. It could be pure self-employment with no 1099s coming from clients. It could be your neighbors walking their dog. Okay, everything's got to come up. All right, bye now.